Kia koutou, and welcome to South Pacific Muscle with a very, very dusty Nate after a long weekend of lying on the couch and perhaps a wee bit of a celebration afterwards after the Olympia. So feeling a little bit worse for wear, so I'm going to let the boys do most of the talking today, hopefully. So welcome on board. Good to see you again, Mike, and Mike Kingsnorth joining us. Thank you. Thanks for coming on board. We thought we'd better get you on, but you guys are going to be quiet just to make me talk, you wankers.
Well, you know, I'm not one to say much.
No, of course not.
You're paying me by the word, so I'm keeping it cheap for you.
Oh, good. I'm fucking lucky. Hey, we had our picks of the Olympia earlier on, and we had the amateurs had a crack at it and the pros, and fair to say that the pros are pros for a reason and the amateurs are amateurs for a very good reason. So congratulations, like Darren and Tom. I think you came close. Mike, you were also very close. And of all the amateurs, Mr. Tab, you were by far the best. The rest of us were just all over the show. So yeah, interesting looking at those. What a weekend. Look, it was a crazy weekend. We didn't know what we were really getting into with the Olympia this year, and fair to say, in my humble opinion, which isn't very worth much after my Olympia picks, but I think it was a very, very exciting Olympia weekend, perhaps one of the best Olympias I've seen in a long time, and the number of upsets was quite outstanding. There were a couple of decisions that I sort of went, interesting, and I was quite surprised at. But overall, a really, really cool weekend, and Jake Wood and his team put on an amazing event. And yeah, it was, to me, it was a classic. It was one of the classic Olympias. So, your thoughts on the weekend, Mr. Kingsnorth?
Well, you got to doff your hat to Jake Wood putting it on. I mean, you know, our friend Evan at Bodybuilders Without Borders put a comment on my Instagram post the other day. I did it at a family Christmas on the same day, so I had to sneak off into the bedroom and just check the update to the show and whatnot. But he made a comment about the beauty of living in a COVID-free country, and you know, it's like for Jake to put it on when everything else in the States is just tanking. You know, credit to the man. I mean, there's no way he made money out of that. So, but a passionate fan of the sport, so all the credit goes to him. Yeah, some interesting calls, one or two which were like, what the F? But what it really highlighted for me in my research was like the camera quality and the shot time. I mean, people are sitting there saying the 90s were much better, and condition-wise, at an amateur level, without a doubt, every show in the 90s, there'd have been somebody turning up with striated glutes. That was the norm. It's not like that now. So when people tell you, oh, you're ripped, bro, and you ain't got striated glutes, no, you're not. They're blowing sunshine. But the quality of cameras back then, you only saw in the magazines the shot, the perfect shot that the editor selected. So we had these rose-tinted glasses, whereas nowadays we're seeing some guy off on the side with a potato camera taking a shot, and we're all going, Ramy's out of shape. Well, you know, and I wear the dunce's hat because I said last week or whatever, Ramy will never win an Olympia. It's not that I didn't think he was capable of it. I just didn't think he could peak and hold it for 2 days in a row. I was wrong, but you know what?
I thought there was a fairly
we can't trust the cameras of this day and age. You know, just pick the quality people who are front and center, and you know, use those shots only.
Hey, a couple of good points there in terms of, you know, making money on the Olympia and the live stream. A lot of people whinged about, oh, it cost me fucking $80. And I kind of look at it and went, you know, it's probably partially because as bodybuilders, we're used to having free coverage of sport, etc. But when you look at any other sport now, you know, like your pay-per-view for events with your boxing, with your MMA, and the price you're paying for a number of fights versus a whole weekend for $80, you know, I think it was $1.66. I worked out how much I was spending an hour. So, you know, I think, you know, as bodybuilders, we've really got to get behind the fact that you know, streaming events is the way it's going to be. And if we want to support the sport and we want to see these athletes up there and we want to see our athletes getting paid what they're really worth, you know, we've got to back the live streams.
You know, there's people out there that you can give them the winning lotto ticket and they complain about the colour of the paper. So, you know, would they like to go back to how it was when Haney when he won it in Florida and we waited about 4 months for the magazine to come out to find out the result. So here, you know, I didn't pay because I didn't want to pay for a lot of classes that, to be honest, I wasn't that interested in. If they'd had pay for just class by class, yeah, I probably would have. But again, I also had a massive family event on, so my timing wasn't right. But hey, you know what? As you say, pay the money. Jake Wood has absolutely every right to make some profit out of this. He's invested his livelihood. He's allowed to make a living. And if we pay money, our athletes get paid, you know, a fair proportion. So, you know, no one's complaining about that. Let's face it, they're giving it their all, and the way they're training and the process of peaking, they're putting their lives on the line. So why shouldn't they get paid, you know, what they're worth?
Yeah, and the other point, the camera quality, the streams were really good too. You know, like the lighting. I think they changed it for the finals. It was actually even better. So, you know, we had a quality feed. So that was really, really cool.
Right, you know, everybody just improved their peak on day 2.
Look, I've taken notes, and in retrospect, when they changed the camera, maybe my notes may not be quite as accurate as I thought they were. But I made notes. I sat there and scrawled notes for the pre-judging. I sat there and scrawled notes for the finals, and people did markedly approve in the finals. And I think that generally was the case, but certainly they really sorted out the cameras for the finals. So it's really good. Mike, any general comments about the weekend?
Yeah, I was a little bit like Mike. I didn't get the live stream. I saw bits and pieces on YouTube and social media and so on. But my takeaway, I was pretty impressed with how everybody had sort of improved the quality from how I expected. Not too many came in off, right down to the likes of Ian Valieri and Hunter Labrada, and those guys were looking. Ian was really sharp, and so if everybody lifts their game, then I guess the placing should have been what we expected them to be. But there weren't too many people coming in off, and you know, like I watched mainly the Classic and the Open. All 3 of those top 3 in the Classic had really improved since last year as well. So yeah, I was pretty impressed with the overall quality of the athletes. In stark contrast with how disappointed I was with the quality of them last year. So,
yeah. Hey, look, we'll look at the scorecards and we'll make some comments on classes generally, and then we'll spend a bit of time perhaps on the men's classes a bit more, and then later on we'll go have a look at some photos and see what we can see. Okay, so the fitness, a class that I have very little knowledge of, but I've got to say, far out. How fantastic was it to watch? I really, really enjoyed it. Very, you know, I was sort of a bit lost because I've never had a gymnastics background or anything like that, but really impressive. Some of the outfits, man, I think Oksana came out dressed as a transformer and then whipped off the, you know, and it was they were really impressive. I think a lot of people had Oksana they backed her to win going into this, but Missy came through and won it. So bit of an upset in the first class. You guys see much of the fitness?
I had to, when we saw the results, I heard a podcast with Fuad and Missy, so I was kind of interested to see how she went. Yep. And Delane and I sort of looked on YouTube and searched until we found her routine. So I watched her routine, and that was pretty impressive. Yeah. One of the things she said on the podcast was that they have to keep innovating their routines. They can't just bring out a similar or the same routine. They have to keep adding different elements with different levels of difficulty and sort of new stuff to keep the judges interested. So I did watch her routine, which was really impressive, but other than that, didn't watch any of it. But you can see from the scorecard there, poor old Oksana, what's that, 4th in judging, and then sort of between 2nd and 3rd in the finals.
Yep. No, it was really impressive to watch. Actually, like their level of athleticism is next level. I remember watching, local shows, 15, 20 years ago when it first came out, and the girls would kind of do a bit of a forward roll and a backwards roll and a few press ups and that kind of thing. And you compare that to what we're seeing here, and these girls are just absolutely next level.
There was a girl, Amy Jones, who was, would have made a pretty good competitor. She's gone away from it, but she brought a portable pole out and did pole dancing for her routine. It was pretty impressive to judge.
Yeah, it was a bit kind of, one of them came out in a little, like kind of negligee sort of thing that you'd expect someone wearing in the bedroom. Like I went, oh yeah, interesting, but yeah, very very different class if you're not someone that watches it regularly like me, but nonetheless very impressive. Rightio, the bikini. So, massive, 40 athletes there. Unfortunately, our girl, Katia didn't make the finals, so a bit of a shame for her. But she looked fantastic, so I did see her up there. And Janet, Janet Legg, who's been around for ever and a day.
She won the New Zealand Bikini Pro a number of years ago.
Yeah,
when they had it at Victory Church.
Yep.
I remember it coming out and everyone coming out and doing their entrance, and she walked so much slower, and I thought, it's kind of like a panther or a jaguar. She stalked the stage, and it was quite noticeable because it had a different style. The thing that jumps out to me looking at this score sheet that I really, really like about it is the idea of countries that are represented. So in some other classes, it's USA, and maybe a Canadian. And here, I mean, look at it. You've got everything from Brazil, South Korea, Portugal, New Zealand, Italy, Spain, Thailand. It's fantastic. This is, to me, what we want the sport to become. And it shows in the open men with, I think it was 3 or 4 Canadian men coming through. Canada's a country not much larger than Australia, so it shows that from our end of the planet, it's potentially a possibility for people to start representing. It's a lot harder to do it from overseas when there's so many shows in America. We could pop down to Wellington or Christchurch and do a show the same as they can pop up from Texas to Chicago to LA and whatever. So it is a lot easier for them to access the shows, get the points, or win a show. So, but love the variety of countries.
Are we likely to have, a New Zealand Pro show and the Australian shows coming up this year? What's the likelihood of those? Any idea?
Did I see that there was going to be an Australian Pro show coming up? Bikini specifically, I thought I saw that. On a different note, I love what Mo's done with the upcoming calendar, where each regional show has a pro qualifier specific to a class. So one region will have bikini pro qualifier, another regional will have classic physique, another will have wellness, and so forth, rather than having it all come together at the nationals, which is also great, but this just gives those regional shows a bit of a boost as well. So every show there's going to be some heat on and something on the line.
Just let me know if there's one that's got the wheelchair pro qualifier, because I sent Mike an update photo and he told me that's the class with my legs at the moment. So I was pretty despondent.
Hey, we do have a New Zealand IFBB Pro wheelchair athlete too.
Yeah,
he's I'm not sure if he's manager or he's one of the senior staff at one of the, I believe it's Anytime Fitness in Gisborne. So I don't know the guy's name, but I do know that he's a IFBB Pro wheelchair athlete.
Not taking the piss at all. Going about it. The guy that won, and I haven't got the score sheets for this, but the guy that won the wheelchair division at the Olympia was absolutely phenomenal. You didn't see him?
I saw Kong, isn't he? They call him Kong, don't they?
He's won for a number of years now, I think. So
he beat Chris Dim last year, and Chris Dim, he's got something going on. So he's obviously slouch.
It was real sharp, man. The figure class. So Sydney got the win there, so that was pretty cool. Latoya coming in and Latoya came in fifth, which I thought was a bit of a surprise. But other than that, I don't know a lot about these athletes. So either of you two following the figure? I know, Mike, you got a bit of experience judging the first figure pro show in New Zealand.
One of them, yeah. I don't know the names, but one of the things I picked up on, and the same with the fitness girls, was how much more size the figure and fitness girls have got now versus when they first came out back in the day. When I judged it, it was the lady who won the Olympia twice in a row. She switched over to bikini. It was the winner. But man, these girls look like large versions of sort of Linda Murray, back in that sort of time, so there's some strong, well-built, and it's a great category because the lines, it's all about, you could judge them by doing a silhouette competition, just switching off the lights and having a light behind and judging who's the best silhouette, really. They are art.
It was interesting. One of the commentators made a call. I think the commentator might have been, because I was watching commentators and I had Fuad on my phone, so I had kind of four people talking the whole way through. But they made the comment that the black girls are tending to do really well in these classes, and they're sort of talking about genetic predisposition to having that shape. Whereas with the men's bodybuilding, a lot of the white boys and Caucasians and some of the other races are just slamming on size, and you're getting away with having that rugged mass sort of look, which you can't get away with in the female classes. So it's quite clear that they're very dominant at the moment with the look that's happening. So there's no surprises in some of the placings there in that respect. Very, very good shape. Very good shape.
Do you think that perhaps bringing back in the women's bodybuilding might start moving that size back down again a little bit? It's nice to have a bit of a category for each of the kind of sizes that the women like to get to. And if it's all started getting bigger and bigger, perhaps bringing that women's bodybuilding back in might start moving the figure and fitness back down a little bit.
Yes, streamline them a bit more, I think, maybe.
Right, women's physique. So probably the most controversial call of the Olympia. Your comments on that one, Mike?
Shanique Grant has got the best genetics out of anybody, male, female, in the sport and this comes back to what I was talking about at the beginning of the cameras. I'm sitting here going, what the hell's going on? There's no way. But then, we've all been in shows where if you're 20 rows back versus front row, it's a totally different story. So for all we know, the lady who won, Sarah, she may have smoked her up front, although clearly a 7 to 8 point spread didn't. But, it might be that level of difference. I don't want to judge a show from cameras and live streams and feeds and whatnot. And as we said, some days I saw one thing where a photographer said the video seems to have been keyed up for the sponsors banners at the back, not for where the athletes are staging. So the sponsors banners were in better shape. But man, to beat Shanique Grant, you must have brought something special, because wow. The photos I saw, I personally couldn't agree. I couldn't call it that way, but I won't trust the camera either.
Yeah, one of the commentators I was listening to made the call that if Shanique Grant was a male bodybuilder, i.e. had the mass of a male bodybuilder with her shape, no one on the planet would touch her. And I thought, yeah, you're right. She's just got such epic proportions, it's unbelievable. But anyway, so Sarah got the win there, so, huge.
I saw Anne-Lorraine Mon from France last year in Chicago. I actually got a photo with her because her physique was just so astoundingly good.
Yeah.
And here she is coming 8th, and she comes in sliced like like it's 1995 again. It's just incredible. If you follow her on Insta, which I do, absolutely peeled. I actually took a photo of it and sent it to Kate Mitchell because I was just so blown away by this woman in the gym in Chicago. And here she's coming 8th. So if she's coming 8th, then whatever Shanika's got terrifies me.
Yeah, look, I think that's what people really need to realise. And, it's real easy to sit back and be an armchair critic. But when you look at, the people that don't even make, people that are not even making that top 16 in some of the classes, and you see them in real life and they're the best you've ever seen in real life, So the reality is the level's just so high up there that it's easy for us to criticise, but we, anyone who makes that stage, and particularly this year, like, unreal. And Miss Olympia, so another upset. You guys, did you follow this one, Mike? Mr. Kingsnorth?
I didn't see any of it, this one, to be honest.
Okay. So I think people were picking Margie for the win there. That was what I'd sort of seen, but it was a pretty clear win for Andrea and Hallie Trevino, who looked absolutely phenomenal, coming in 3rd there. But amazing class, really top athletes. It's cool to watch. Very, very cool.
Actually, I tell a lie. I did see one photo of the top 4. And all of them were astounding. And some nice narrow waists in it as well. So it was really cool. These girls had the muscle, but they still had the shape and the structure and the aesthetics to go with it. So, it was good.
I remember making the comment, I was texting back and forth to someone and who was watching it too. And I said, I would hate to be standing on stage next to them. They really were that good. They just they were class, real class. Men's physique, again, another massive class. Brandon Hendrickson getting the win there. Quite a clear win there. Didn't really follow a lot of this. Jeremy coming in 4th. I think Raymond Edmonds came in 3rd from memory.
Yeah, Andre Ferguson slipped down a bit, isn't he? He used to be a top 2 or 3, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
He was up there. Ryan Terry, there was a lot of big talk about him in the early stages. Well,
and he looked good.
He come through.
Yeah, he looked. I saw Ryan come out, and he looked really good. But I guess again, the standard. When you've got 31 guys on stage that are the cream of the crop, and when you look at men's physique competitions, even locally, and then going into the States, and that how many athletes are competing to get through to an Olympia, you're talking, I guess with bodybuilding, it's very, very tough to get to, to qualify for an Olympia. But, you look at the men's physique, what I will say is the numbers game, like there's so many of them now. So these guys,
the shows are huge. And I watch, for example, the presentation part from Bhuwan from India, because he won his pro card and then won the show in Vancouver. Like, his presentation and his physique are astounding. Just you would not believe how good this guy is. He just looks freaking alien. He's so good.
Yeah.
And here he is coming 15th. It's just that's what blows me away. The top 2, I looked at it and I went, Brandon, I had him winning the back shots because the guy that got second, just, the way, I think might have been the way he rotated his scapula, made his shoulders look really high, but his traps really sunk down. It looked kind of funny. And then front on, I had Brandon second and had the other guy first. And so I think the other guy was the reigning champ, if I remember rightly. But I looked at the gap between them and I went, Brandon is still close front on, but back on, it's not close. He's taking it. So I agreed with the call in the end here. But yeah, I mean, as I say, if you've got a guy coming 15th who's pretty damn near flawless from what I could see, it's just terrifying to think what the 14 above him are like.
Rightio. So classic physique, and I've got to say this is probably I think most people pick going into the show Chris to win this one, but I think everyone that picked Chris to win it had Breon coming, hot on his heels in second. And what a day for Terence Ruffin. That guy must have just been over the moon to come in there, and he looked it. He looked absolutely wrapped with that, and look, he deserved it. He was phenomenal too. So I don't know what message that sends. Perhaps Breon's might be better off moving into the 212s. I mean,
go back where he came from, I guess, because he was a 212 and he was pretty okay at it. But he was winning Olympias and Classic. I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of Breon's physique. I think the clavicles are too narrow. He's a little bottom heavy in the legs to his lats. His classic pose, he's not hitting the right ones. And let's put it in context. Who am I to say? And I'm coming in the middle of the pack in shows in LA. But, just little things like he's got a great set of biceps. And so in his classic pose, last year's one, he was bringing the arm up and hitting the bicep, and it's like, but the front arm was hiding the back one. This time he tried to match Chris with the same sort of one arm up, and it's like, yeah, nice abs, but it just highlighted the narrow clavicles. Whereas if you saw on his routine, he had this back shot, the same pose, hand behind the head, back shot, and it was freaking amazing. I'm like going, that's what your classic pose should be, because you're standing next to people are saying doesn't have a good enough back. You've got an amazing back. That's how the game's played. But I got no problems with Breon being third or fourth because it's about the shape as much as anything, and he's sized up his Breon. He's tapped out the weight limit. It's just astoundingly flawless. He is what classic physique should be, and put in pounds on him here or there, just in the perfect spots, and he's going to absolutely give Chris a serious run because he just makes everybody look unaesthetic by comparison.
I thought Chris Bumstead had made some amazing progress. I saw a photo of him last year versus this year, and leaps and bounds. He's almost, version 2.0 is it's quite astounding how much progress he's made in a year.
Yeah. It's
with
like, where do you put the muscle when you've got a weight limit?
So with the health issues that he's got, the sort of immune disorder that sort of means he can't really push things too hard, has to watch his stress levels and his off-season supplementation, that sort of thing. He's obviously got phenomenal genetics for not just his structure, but the way he can grow, because he can't do what some of the others can do, should they choose to put on that size and reshape his body, and yet he's still phenomenally good. And yeah, I agree, much better than he was last year. It always seems that when you've got such a big frame, there is a lot of areas to get right, and it always seems that the shorter guys find it easier to be aesthetic. But he's pretty good, and seems to be the way they're kind of going with classic, with the sort of longer limbed, kind of taller bodybuilders where possible. Terence Ruffin obviously needs to replicate a Lee Labrada, because that's probably the modern day classic look.
Yeah, look, it was a cool class. Logan Franklin didn't really even feature in it, which was, a lot of talk about Logan going in. Didn't really feature. Wesley seemed to have quite a wide waist for a classic athlete, And
his pants pulled up too far.
Yeah, definitely kind of goes to show that, presentation, like the bikini and figure girls and that, nail it. And we kind of don't really worry about it so much. But in classic, I think if you choose the wrong style of trunks, it can really highlight, Yeah. So I think there's probably something in that.
Wesley kind of reminds me of, if you look at classic, you got Frank Zane classic and you've got Arnold classic. And Wesley's in the Arnold sort of frame, so he hits Arnold poses, which had me thinking, man, I thought he was going to make some noise because he was going to bring that, it was going to stand out and be something different. The photos we saw beforehand, he was in just crisp condition, whether it's the travel or whatnot, and I know it affects me coming from here. It takes me forever to drop that water. He looked just a little bit off on the peak side of things, and I think that's what caned him, because it's, you know, he's probably coming in from, you know, a 10-hour flight or something.
Yeah, that was a great class. I really enjoyed it, and you know, I think it's definitely changing our sport and dragging new people in to watch, and it's you know, I think you know, the prize money and things in Classic and the recognition that they're getting is just going to keep going up. So it's going to be interesting to watch that class over the next couple of years.
You know what the first prize was for Classic? What did Chris get?
Ooh, can't answer that question.
I think it was about 70,000. I don't know if they brought it up this year or not.
I think most of the classes are about the same as last year, from memory.
Certainly another one, just out of note, DeAndre Campbell coming 10th. Check that guy out on Insta. I mean, he must have been quite sharp enough or something, because his physique looks like you'd know to put another 5-10 pounds on him. He looks like he should be doing 2-on-2 or open. He's got just an amazing bodybuilding physique, great set of arms. It's just awesome to look at. Almost kind of reminds me a little bit of Chris Cormier a little bit. But man, for someone of that quality to come in 10th, I mean, damn.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
I think I made the comment in the preview show that Brian Ainsley looks more like a sort of a shrunk down open men's, and perhaps that's where he needs to go back to. You know, he's about 195, I think, so he's got a little bit of room to grow back into 2-on-2 if he decides to go back there.
Well, 2-on-2 wouldn't want to have been there this year, that's for sure. I think everyone had Kamal in for the win, and Kamal looked fucking unreal. But then Sean Clarida, who probably got a, you know, I don't think he got the recognition he deserved and the respect he deserved in terms of the noise that was being made, because fuck, he turned up, and shit did he turn up, you know. Wow. Pretty much all I can say about Sean, you know. What were your thoughts, guys?
I had Kamal second, as you'll have on the last week's podcast, but I had George Pedersen in first. So, you know, I think a really important thing to point out is you again, with the camera work, if you have a look, there's a video, I think it might be Matt, I can't remember his surname, but that prep coach may have posted it of Sean, our back pumping up. It's like the guy was made with a compass. It's just round everything. It's just what we've seen on stage doesn't convey how impressive this guy was. But yeah, he's got just a round shape. And some of his poses, just lat spreads and so forth, they're just so much better for it. You know, it's normally a good big man beats a good little man, but in this case, Kamal, whilst being bigger, wasn't quite as, you know, I guess he didn't have the muscle bellies, he didn't have the flexness that, you know, of shape that Sean brings. And, you know, Sean's ripped, but man, it's like, how much more muscle is this guy going to put on his body? It's amazing.
And Derek Lunsford. Derek Lunsford again.
Yeah, so
true to form.
Caught him in fourth too, didn't I?
Yeah.
So Hide in 14th.
How is that?
You know, wow. I mean, this is a guy who was 9th in the Olympia in 2010 Open Men's. You know, it's like, wow. And it's not like he's gone horrendously backwards. Definitely wasn't the Hide of old, no doubt. But, you know, put in context, David Henry in 12th. Yeah. I saw David in LA, and he's the real deal, you know, jacked and packed, you know. And it's like, man, you're coming in 12th. And David used to get, I think he was like second or third in the, he may have even won Open Pros, but he definitely was getting top 3 back in the day. And he's still, you know, got a lot of mass on him. Yeah. So he doesn't like to slow down.
No, look, that class was incredibly competitive, and the standard in that class is just unreal. Like I guess I didn't used to pay as much attention to the 2-1-2 until I think it was last year I kind of started really getting into the 2-1-2 class, and it's actually as exciting, if not in some ways more exciting than the Open, because the level of conditioning that some of these guys bring, and the absolutely 100% on point conditioning that you see out of these guys is fucking mind blowing. To be fair, you know.
They've got to make the most out of every pound, and it's got to be all muscle. Can't afford to carry any fat or water.
Mm-hmm. No, it was great class. Yeah, you look at those names that that are placing further down the field, and far out. I mean, they'd wipe the floor with anyone locally. It's the reality of it. Very, very hard to criticise.
Some of them, Errol did. I think he did the Japan Pro and Open. Put in context, and these guys are holding their own in that space. So
yeah,
and
absolutely.
Here we go.
Right.
Was anyone watching this?
Nah. Turn TV off. Had a nap. No. Fuck. I've got to say, people brought it. We talked about previous years, and people say Brandon had a soft win and all the rest of it. And there may be something in it. The depth might not have been there, but we were missing a few names. But that said, fuck, what a stacked lineup, and I think everyone turned up, and they, the conditioning, I don't know whether it's the focus on conditioning has come back on and a bit of a bounce back into the, because of the round bubbly sort of look that we were getting for the last few years, and people kind of commenting on that, and whether it's a bit like Arnold's comment around the gut, and now that's a big focus, but everyone's condition was sensational, and worth. Should we do you want to have a run through each of these guys and just make a couple of comments? It's probably worth doing. So I'll kick off and we'll just run through. But when William came out in the pre-judging, he looked amazing. In the finals, he also looked amazing. But he always does when he's on his own, and when you see him up there and he's doing his routine, you're going, fuck, this guy's top 3 all day. But I think when he was with the others in that top 5, it was quite clear that he'd kind of been outsized, and he probably wasn't. He was in great shape. There's no doubt about it. But was he in his best? Possibly not. Probably what I'll say.
Narrow clavicles are just always going to hurt William. One thing I would say, I saw one shot behind Phil Heath. He's got the next best calves on the stage behind Phil. But again, didn't do anything wrong. Just the good big guy beats the good little guy, and narrow clavicles. What does Anthony say? Can't pick your parents.
Yeah. But look, he was good, and I love his physique.
And you know what? If we'd mixed it in and put William in 3rd or 4th because of the judging arrangement, probably people would have said, yeah, fair enough. It's just, because sometimes when people are in, our mindset is, oh, yeah, that's right. But, if they'd put William in there, maybe people might have gone, yeah, why not?
Yep.
So I asked if he was a legitimate contender for the win, and you guys were going, yeah. He would have had to been a little bit sharper, and all 4 of those guys ahead of him would have needed to be a little bit off. So there's a lot of things that kind of come together for a smaller statured guy like that to kind of win the whole thing.
Yeah. Right, Max Charles. What did I say about Max? I noted he'd done a lot of shows. His back and hammies. This is pre-judging. Were not separated to the best level, but on the finals, I said, look, he looked way better. He was full as fuck, and still a little bit smooth in the back, perhaps. But look good. Max looked good.
Yeah, making the best of what he's got.
Yeah. Hardy. So my comment on prejudging was that he looked great, very similar to last year. Very hard to criticise anything about his physique. And when he came out for the finals, I just went, wow, looks great. Waist was a bit tighter than it was at prejudging. and just muscle on muscle, just a brick with eyes, man. You know.
Well, look at that score sheet. At 22 in the judging, the first round, he's only 1 point ahead of William. Second round, 10 points, clear second place. Just, you know, it wasn't even a question. The only one with a side tricep that could stand next to Brandon, as far as I could tell, with that pose. And a great side chest. Just front on, because I think of the shape of his quads, which are massive, but they're big tree trunks, it kind of make his waist look blocky-ish. His lats are just a little bit high, and they're kind of a flat angle. There's no curvature to them. And, you know, as we saw with Ronnie and Lee Haney and Brandon, when you've got that curve, it creates the illusion, it's the optical illusion of it being bigger and better. And, you know, just Hardy suffers from being made of Lego, basically.
It's a stature thing again, I think. Any comments on Hardy, Mike?
I just I liked when they compared him with Ramy on in the night show, in the finals. He was about the only one that kind of could stand with him. Conditioning was better than Ramy's. Obviously, he's much smaller, but you know, he had everything put together pretty well there. So he stacked up all right, but you could clearly see there was a divide between first and second. But again, I thought it was a clear second in the evening.
Yeah, that was a cool comparison actually, and I think it was a comparison a lot of people were wanting to see. The commentators all sort of fired up the minute they moved them there. So, yeah,
you could hear the crowd kind of ooh and ah when he got fourth. I mean, seeing the score sheet, you can kind of see why. Yeah. But yeah, he did look like he should have placed higher in the night show.
So moving on to the man of the moment, Figurami. So pre-judging, I've got the crowd roared. Obviously his best. Wow. Fresh. Nailed it. Winter is coming. And then moving into the finals, I went, what a silhouette. Did you see that silhouette picture? Holy shit. It was like a cartoon that a kid drew. With fucking everything exaggerated. His side shot was side shot best ever. And what I loved was when he was on stage and he was running. I'm like, that's a 290-pound man running across the stage hitting poses, and he was jogging around, and I was like, oh, so good. So it was,
come down from 320 or 330, you probably feel like you've got a spring in your step.
Oh, but yeah, I to be honest, I kind of like when he came out, I just went. And I fucking laughed. I had to laugh because I'm like that. Chris Aceto, they're panicking. And Dave Palumbo said, who's panicking? And Chris said, all of them. Everyone's panicking. And Dennis James had a bit of a retort about that. But I was thinking, fuck, Dennis must have had a bit of a laugh. The minute Ramy walked out, everyone went, not so much panicking now. So really cool to see him finally do it, I think, was the thing. And I think, you know, he cops a lot of flack about not coming in. And I think, you know, I've heard people say, you know, it's not because people don't like him, it's because people just really wanted to see him in shape. And fuck, we did. We got to see it. So, yeah, wow, that's about all I can say. Your thoughts, gentlemen?
Amazing side chest. I thought his chest itself looked better. The front shot next to Brandon, it was just a little bit more protruding, a little bit more 3D in the chest. I don't think there's been enough mention, but it really popped out. It was a game changer. Legs still too big, makes his calves look, to be blunt, pathetic. You know, and I'd love to see him dial them in. Just don't train them for a year, Ramy, because you know they are too big and they make his upper body front on. There's some poses front on where I just don't like it. Back on, wasn't that impressed in the lower back. I think that, you know, Brandon had a better back, but, you know, we've seen Ramy peak for 2 days in a row for the first time in 10 years. Next year, he doesn't have to worry about size. He never has to worry about size. All he's got to do is just do the same thing again, and now he can refine it and just make fine tunes. And man, he's going to be hard to knock off the pedestal because he doesn't have to get bigger. You know, it's a bit like with Ronnie when Ronnie came on. yeah, that's one game is gone. That's the side game.
Someone
So,
said,
yeah, it's the size.
someone
thing
said to
done.
me today, they said, who, if he can just maintain where he's at and just make those small refinements, who is in that lineup that can beat that? And the only thing I could come up with was Ruley. If Ruley comes fucking 110%, maybe Akeem. If Akeem on a fucking left field kind of a thing. But I found it hard to look at anyone else in the lineup and say, if he gets incrementally better, just slightly, and comes in that conditioning, who's got the tools to be able to knock someone like that off the top spot?
Well, there's one guy that's done it a number of times on that list, and I was talking to a mate of his who says that, you know, he doesn't think he'll be able to come back because of the stomach and whatnot. And I think, you know what, if the guy could learn to hold his gut in for all the time he's on stage instead of relaxing it, and I don't know, maybe the muscle control isn't there, but if there is a way, the classic boys do it. There's only, you know, Phil is the only guy on there that really can contend with Ramy at a size level. Obviously not as big, but, you know, let's face it, Phil on those back shots, it was, you know, it was him and Brandon. Ramy wasn't in the conversation by comparison. Having said that, Ramy is the only one really holding a good side chest to Phil as well. So
We'll come back.
But I'm no surgeon.
I'll talk about Ramy's legs as well. You know, like from the front, they're not pretty. They're massive, but they're quite square. They're quite sort of rectangular. They're quite flat on the outside. They don't have that nice sort of aesthetic sweep that comes out. But when he turned to the side, they're so big that there looks like there's an extra cut in them that other people don't have. Side on, they were just ludicrous, the cuts in his legs.
One thing I noticed with a lot of them actually was how far down that glute tine is actually down your leg. You know, unless you've got a huge set of glutes that have just got nothing but a fine layer of skin over, you don't notice how far down. You know, when they sit into those poses, you're kind of like, holy shit, look at that fucking glute tine.
Man, it's crisp.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Ramy's glute hand tine is so crisp. It's like, if you touch it, you'd cut your finger.
Right.
You compare that side on to Phil's and made Phil's glutes look flat.
Right, Mr. Grimes, Regan Grimes. What did I say about Regan?
I felt for him having to come in after Ramy and before Phil.
Yeah.
Want to come out.
So I said his prejudging, I said condition looked good, but his size needed to come up and density, but a beautiful physique. And in the finals, I made the comment he's the biggest classic athlete on the planet, and he's just got a massive frame that I think needs time. But, you know, I mean, he's had a long run this year. He's done a lot of shows, done a lot of travel.
Yeah.
We said about who could
Left the earth 18 times, isn't he, this year?
Sorry, what was that, Michael?
Which one?
Michael.
Yeah, I was saying I think he's lapped the earth about 18 times this year trying to qualify, and I just wonder how much that played on him. As you say, he's got the genetics, but man, he must have been just worn out, just, you know, prep after prep after prep after prep.
Yeah,
he did look like he got better through those last couple of shows, the Europa, and come in better condition each time. Yeah, he would have got worn out. You talked about who could contend with Ramy from a size perspective. His frame could hold the size. I just don't think he would ever go down that path of getting enough size to be competitive from a size perspective with Ramy. I think his frame could probably hold it.
He's a big man. Everyone that's met him in person has made the comment that he's got a big presence. You know, he's got a big. He's 6'1" or something, I think, or around that 6 foot mark. Yeah. Right, Phil Heath. So, wow, what did I say? Looks good, but gut through the bottom 4 abs, but he's the gift for a reason. And then in the finals, I thought he looked a hell of a lot better in the finals. Amazing physique, fuller, drier, separation was good, back detail was off the hook. The detail was just next level, but I thought, you know, the midsection, everyone was so focused on it, and, you know, he did have a mild distension. It wasn't bad, but it looked like there'd been some damage done to those lower abs, because they just, the shape wasn't there, and it didn't sit the same as Phil at his best. So I think that really hurt him.
Later on in the piece, he tried to do an abdominal thigh, and just nothing happened.
Yeah.
They didn't crunch together. There was no separation, especially in those sort of second and third set of abs.
Yeah.
And it was like he wasn't even hitting the pose.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was just abdominal control. I think there's probably more to it than that, because he didn't even seem to be able to hit it when he was hitting the abdominal thigh. Because
the reality is, if you're going to get surgery and they, you know, in any way cut into that wall, you're going to get some nerve damage, and that nerve damage is going to take a long time. I'm speculating, but I just wonder if he's actually got the same level of control in that area that normally, you know, he would have. But I will say, if it wasn't for that, the show would have been his. It was pretty simple, I think.
He didn't bring the full conditioning of all that crispness, you know. He looked a little bit thicker in the skin. You know, but back shots, it was pretty full of old. Day 2, wow. And yet, such an improvement on day 2, and yet slips from placing second to, you know, he scored 4th on day 2. So funny, you see him getting second on day 1, 4th on day 2. Hardy gets 4th on day 1 and 2nd on day 2. And the difference is, you know, one place of the other. So,
yeah. Mr. Tab, anything else on the gift?
No, I've sort of said my piece on Phil. I just thought there were too many confounding variables for him to really nail it. You know, it's possible, and that's kind of why I didn't have him winning it.
Yeah.
You know, it was possible he could come back at 100, but I thought, you know, a little bit of time off, the abdominal issue, you know, there's so many things that could go wrong that I kind of took a bit of a punt that something would go wrong, and it did. So.
All right, Mr. Consistent Dexter. Stomach didn't look as tight as it did usually had, and it was in prejudging. On the finals, I said the same. Dex's quad sweep was down perhaps a bit, not as tight through the abs, but still a blade. And I shed a tear. I actually cried. Yeah.
hay fever.
Hay fever, yeah. Oh no, it was really cool seeing him. Yeah, it's cool. Very moment for me though. Yeah, love seeing him. Thoughts on Dex, guys?
Yeah, he looked, compared with Tampa of last year, it was only a year ago, but man, it looked like it was 5 years ago. I was surprised how much he was down. I certainly I wonder, because he said he's bringing something special, trained with someone different. Maybe he didn't train with the right person, because I felt like he was a shadow of himself, you know, by comparison. Still got that amazing genetic and those muscle bellies and tie-ins. But wow, it was, you know, a surprise. I personally wouldn't have changed for the last year to a new trainer. But I've won one less Olympia than Dexter.
Yeah. Mike, your thoughts on Dexter?
Yeah, I didn't see much of Dexter, just a couple of clips and some of the stuff from the tribute they gave him, which
it was cool,
just listening to something, yeah, well, yes and no. Something I was reading was on the Australian muscle page that you sent me, that talked about them stopping the kind of whole show after his routine and having all his family come on in bits and pieces before they could get on with the show. But that was a little bit sort of contrived and a little bit sort of artificial, and they should just, I guess, do something at the end of the show, or sort of, you know, find some way that doesn't interrupt the show. That would be impressed with that. But I mean, it's secondhand. I didn't see it. So.
Yeah, it didn't seem to interrupt things too much, and I thought it was quite a nice tribute. And I mean, they also had another break at another period to bring Flex Wheeler out. So I don't didn't seem to interrupt the running too badly. But no, I thought it was nice anyway. But then I'm a big Dexter fan. Hunter
They would have
LeBrun,
told Hunter, listen, this is what's going to happen anyway. So Hunter out the back would have been aware that there was going to take an extra bit of time, and he would have his time to go on was, so it wouldn't have disrupted Hunter's prep.
I felt a little bit sorry for Hunter coming out after that tribute, though. I thought, everyone's kind of had their little moment, and now you've got to come out and sort of flattened out a bit, sort of thing. But Hunter, anyway, prejudging.
He got to get on an Olympia stage. He won't be unhappy about it.
Yeah, exactly. I thought he looked absolutely awesome, and that he'd be pretty happy with his performance in terms of the way he'd come out. A lot better than his previous show, which he was fucking fantastic in. The finals, I thought he was about the same. I don't think he, a lot of the athletes improved markedly. I think he was about the same. His posing was so good. And he looked fresh, he looked healthy. Perhaps could have been a bit drier, I thought, in the finals.
Labrada posing well. I'm shocked. do you think Dad has quietly had a word afterwards and said, "Son, I placed higher in my debut"?
I think it's genetic, his posing. It's not learned. He was born being able to do it. No, it was good. Mike, did you see? What do you think of Hunter?
I didn't see too much of Hunter.
No, he looked good. The first Korean athlete, I believe, to hit the Olympia stage, Sung Chul Lee, and he was big, good separation. Probably needed more back, to be fair. Needed to thicken up through there, but he had a real fresh-looking physique. In the finals, I just noted he had a very pleasing physique. Needs more mass in the back, but like a good-looking physique. It looked really good. Thoughts? Anyone? You make any comment?
First Korean in the Open, but there's been Koreans in the 212 and Classic, and I believe Bikini too. But the thing that jumped out at me, I thought that justifies his win in Korea, because a lot of people questioned it because they thought maybe a hometown call or whatnot, and I didn't, and I thought he deserved his win, and here he is. He's turned up to the Olympia. He's knocked a few names off. So hats off.
Yep.
I thought his arms and shoulders and peaks especially were really full. Like he looked like he sort of had a balloon blown up and everything was really popping through his arms and his chest. But I thought he needed a bit more legs too. His legs were a little lacking as well as his back.
One, Morel, I thought wasn't at 100% detail-wise. Quad sweep was down a lot. The finals, he was a bit fuller, but certainly wasn't the best one Morel I've seen. So, Mike, either of the Mikes, did you see one?
A little bit of social. He said it was really hard prep because he's got a full-time job. And I thought of this guy, Ronnie, someone or other, who seemed to do all right with a full-time job. At the Olympia. Fuller. Well, I think he went off to his kid's birthday party between the morning and the night or whatever. So maybe he had a bit of cake. But you know what? No excuses. I don't buy it.
Yeah, I know he'd launched a business or something. So, I guess, if you... And I think he made the comment that he knew, wasn't going to be at his best. But fuck it, look, if you get the chance to get on the Olympia stage, you turn up, Lucas, condition spot on, separation good. In the finals, again, separation good, complete package. Just one of those guys that, to me, doesn't have anything that really jumps out at me, but he's all round really good. And you put him next to guys and he exposes their weaknesses, I think is, I've heard that comment made a fair few times. But no, he looked good.
Yeah.
His condition, was it the Europa show that he did? And his condition really really stood out from the other athletes because he was so dry and so hard. He was equally dry and hard here, but just didn't stand out quite as much because a lot of the other athletes were just as good or better. So.
Yeah. Justin Rodriguez. I thought Justin looked was better than he. I think he made some improvements. What I say, front and his arms look good. It looks the best I've seen. Perhaps lacking a little bit in the tries. Maybe I think I've got that note there. And night show. Probably my only knock was his waist to quad ratio. You know, he hasn't kind of got that X frame there, but a very good Justin Rodriguez. Deadly silence. Nothing. No. Okay.
Yeah, you've summed them up.
Okay. Antoine. So 18 months ago, Antoine was on a bender, and now he's on the Olympia stage. You know, so he's a guy who obviously had his trials and tribulations, and fucking good on him for you know, swinging things around and grabbing on and getting himself on Olympia stage. I thought he was in good nick. His back was perhaps a bit light. His leg separation was awesome. Final, same thing, conditioning separation. Best he's been. His posing was sensational. Yeah, so I think he put the best Antoine we've seen on stage.
Yeah, great poser. Didn't he have a full bicep rupture, probably of a tendon, because it doesn't look like the muscles deformed in any way, about a year or so back, prepping for a show. So to come back from that, I met Antoine last year at West Coast Iron.
Yep.
This guy's got calves that make Steve Ward looks like he's got to do some work. Antoine's calves are just nuts. It's funny to see in person, but yeah, love his posing.
Yeah, his posing was. Ian Valliere, I don't know if I said his last name right, but Ian's condition was great. He looked big. His side poses were fucking awesome. Very full in the finals. Absolutely the best I have seen him, and he just got better and better the more he posed. And was rewarded. He was rewarded, you know, to get a 7th place at the Olympia. And Pip Hunter there was pretty impressive.
Yeah. Didn't Hunter beat him earlier this year?
Yeah, that said, and he was quite off at that show compared to the New York where he got the win. I think it was a New York he won.
Okay.
Was it New York?
Okay.
Tampa. Yeah. Anyway, but
Hunter
that said,
Tampa.
Yeah, Hunter was Tampa. I think he won. I'm pretty sure it was New York. I get confused which one Justin won. But Ian was definitely better than he was there. He made some significant improvement for the Olympia, and you know, so he got that. And you know, so I guess sort of start nipping on the heels of Akeem, who was up next. And my comments on Akeem was sorry.
Ian's like his condition was great, and his size, as you said, through his chest, all his side shots look good, his arms, his delts. His weak points are ones he's identified himself. I mean, he goes on that podcast with Fuad, so I mean, he knows, you know, lower lats and calves and things need to come up. So there were no surprises about what was weak about his physique. So he kind of, to get everything else spot on, placed about as high as he was capable of. So, you know, win to him.
I've got to say, it's really funny because he highlighted this point. He said, you know, like he gets all this stuff online and people are like, oh, he's got shit calves. He goes, I fucking know that. He said, I look at it every day. I try and improve every part of it to get the perfect what I can get on stage. I fucking know it. You don't have to tell me. And I thought it's so true, you know, like people kind of come in and like they're making some fucking revelation. You know, it's like, I live in the body, man. So, you know, like I love his attitude, and you know, it was fantastic. Sam. Akeem, everyone knows I love Akeem Williams. Met him at the Olympia, fantastic guy, and he came out and I went, wow, size, separated, reminded me of Vic Richards, kind of just that big freaky, and I went, he's going to go top 6. Then for the finals, I said, just fuck. Huge, separated, what a bodybuilder should look like, which is what I always say about Akeem Williams. But Akeem fucking brought it, you know. He's often been criticised for not quite having his condition there, and people talk about him having thick skin and all these things like that. And he got the formula right. So, and what a side.
Burke, back 20 years ago, he kind of structurally, the shape reminds me of Orville Burke. And yeah, again, they talk about his conditioning. He's in shape, but sometimes it could be the skin. It could be the darkness of the skin just hiding some of the cuts. You know, who knows? But yeah, he's a big unit.
And by all accounts, is as strong as he looks too, apparently. So yeah,
I heard some post-match commentary about the judging, how people were pretty impressed with the fact that people placed probably where they should have placed.
Yep.
And you can see from the scorecards, Hardy and Phil might have been the other way around, but it wasn't like you were automatically given a pass because you're the former Mr. Olympia.
absolutely.
So Akeem's probably a good example of him legitimately deserving a place there, but with another judging panel or with some sort of nepotism, it's possible that he could have placed lower than someone else, but like Dexter perhaps been bumped up for sort of nostalgia reasons. So
yeah, look,
that the judging went that way.
Certainly no favours given, really, were there? You know, when you look at potentially people made comments about Phil and people made comments about Dexter, and you know, the judging, I think, you know, speaks for itself.
Phil got a gift on day one.
Right. Brandon, I just said he was really good, very hard, very complete condition. He got his condition there. I said day two, I said he was a champ for a reason and looked a bit fuller than yesterday. And, you know, it's when he came out, I knew there was going to be a dogfight. There was no, you know. I think, you know, to me, I think most people had made up their mind that and probably a bit of it was that we'd finally seen Rami coming in shape, so we'd decided he'd won already, you know, in a loose sort of a way. But, you know, I guess Brandon and Phil were there and thereabouts, and Phil had him in terms of completeness, but with the weakness of the gut. But I thought Brandon brought in a vastly superior physique than he had in the previous year.
You know, with Brandon, you know, first of all, maybe he shouldn't have shown his head. Maybe that was the thing. Funny thing on the score sheet, look at that. He's third place on day one. He got third on day two, brings home second. So it's one of the funny anomalies of the judging system. But yeah, people don't respect his assets, like his front lat spread and rear lat spread, rear double biceps for that matter. It's you know, the back, the flare of the lats, the angle, the sweep. It's like an aircraft carrier. Side tricep. I saw a shot of it and I went, you know, that's probably second only to Jay Cutler when it comes to side triceps in the history of men's Olympias, in my opinion, because he brings in such a great waist with it. Phil's got a great arm, but the waist sort of blows out and loses the aesthetic. So I think Brandon's underrated.
Just quads, right? Quad sweep. I mean,
yeah, it's not bad. It's got a lot of inner quad, adductor sweep, and you see Phil's not got a huge quad sweep, so they highlight the adductor sweep, just like King Kamali and Gustavo Bedell used to do. And I do it, be honest. I've got craps outer sweep, so show off the inner sweep, you know.
Just trying to find those comparison photos, Mike, that we talked about in here somewhere, aren't they? Oh, might have. Let's have a little flick through these anyway, because there's some great photos here.
Oh, that ass looks a bit saggy. The arm.
Wow. Wow. All right, that's what I've got. Let's have a quick flick through some of these. Okay, look at that glute. Oof.
they're not great photos either. We've seen shots of him on that stage much better.
Yeah, you can definitely see something going on around here, around that middle of the gut, just not the same shape as it normally would be, but Dex. Look at that. Right. Antoine.
Look at those calves.
It's got cows.
They are nuts.
Who did that pose before?
Sergio.
The victory pose, right?
And Frank Zane, but not quite the same.
No.
Yeah, people criticizing his quads. It's just the inner quad is massive instead.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that flare on those lats on Brandon and the thickness of the lat, the outer lat, how thick it looks.
Yeah.
Now you compare that lat for lat against Hardy, and it's just, you know.
Yeah.
And even Phil, not where he was.
Yeah, you're right in that pose there. Like, I mean, in that pose there, in terms of when you're looking at the lat, you know, Brandon's definitely, you know, both in width and thickness, really.
Mm. Yeah.
Let's have a quick skim through these ones, because these are all... He looks great in that pose.
No one's touching Brandon in that.
No.
Hardy's close.
Yeah.
Whereas in this one, it's only Phil and Ramy really. Hardy coming in close, but yeah, Brandon unfortunately getting owned in that shot.
Yep. Agreed.
Brandon looks a little bit light from the waist down, but that lat flare, that upper back, wow.
Yeah.
You know what? And this is a shot that the new Mr. Olympia is coming forth in this shot.
Yeah. Be cool. Just wow.
Tell you one thing,
Wow.
Brandon's glutes, look how hard they are.
That photo for me just really highlights how good these guys are from the back, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Hardy, if you stuck your fingers into the middle of his lower back, you'd probably be up to your knuckles, you know? That depth in there.
Tell you what, I've seen Hardy and his glutes. That picture does not do justice. Just, I've used the word before, but they are alien. They're incredible. Oh, sorry, Phil. Suck it in.
Yeah, I like Hardy in that shot.
That's why I listened to a podcast where Brandon thought the side tricep was his worst pose.
No,
and the guy hosting it said, I thought it was one of your best.
Yeah, he looks great in that pose.
And I look at it, it's great.
Yeah.
Well, look at Remy's leg in that. He's got extra cuts the others don't have.
Yeah, he's got some
muscles there.
You know, when you get a guy who's won the number of Olympias that Phil's got, and then you've got Hardy there, you've got Ramy there, who makes him look like he's got average legs from the side. I mean, in person to see, I would hate to think what they look like I think I'd be putting on 3 pairs of trackies if he was in the same gym as me. They're just phenomenal.
Let's assume that they haven't snapped this photo with Phil hitting the pose in the right. You know, Phil hasn't quite hit the pose, I don't think.
Yeah, hasn't quite.
The glutes aren't quite pink, yeah. Because otherwise he's coming forth in this pose by some distance.
Which you
the
would.
Ramy side leg. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, you see Hardy's legs look quite blocky there, as you said.
Yeah, unreal, man.
I think Hardy takes one. I think Hardy takes it, and he takes it because he's got his abs popping.
he looks good, man. He looks so good.
Hmm.
Right. Look, we could look at photos all day, but you know, I think we'll leave that to people to go and do that. So, hey, if you're out there and you want to check out photos, Flex Magazine had those photos here. Bodybuilders Without Borders is another great Instagram page if you want to follow tons of updates. So if you're into bodybuilding, or what else is there? There's another couple out there. The Olympia LLC page, Sulio, so I think it is. So there's a bunch of, yeah. So there's a bunch of them. So get out there, have a look at them. Let us know what you think. But all in all, a fantastic year, and well done to all those with the title.
364 days till the next one. I know, hopefully
and everybody comment on the Instagram handle, who's winning it next year? Let's start the discussion now.
Who can pick
no need for a holiday.
9 months out. I think, with 9 months, I think till the next Olympia, possibly, depending on what they do with it. But
Roden 2021, you heard it here first.
Oh, no way. No, look, it'll be cool, but, I think, look, if anyone willing to stick their neck out and go for Kai Green?
Flex Lewis will beat Kai Green.
Yeah, look, can't wait to see Flex Lewis anyway. But thank you, guys. Appreciate your time, Michael, for joining us and giving us your thoughts on that. And Mike, thank you. And people out there, stay safe, and we'll catch up with you later on.
Merry Christmas, everyone.